Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody. Ann Harder here with you. You know, we're in the midst of the season, the Christmas season, and there are so many traditional sights and sounds and flavors that we enjoy. And one of the first things that comes to my mind is fruitcake.
There we go.
When we're talking about Christmas. And so it is a beloved treat, at least at my house. And it's so wonderful to have Hayden Crawford here with us, who is Vice President of Public Relations, one of the partners at the Collin Street Bakery in Corsicana, of course, for 126 years.
126.
You've been baking these amazing, delicious cakes, and we're looking at them. They're right here on the table in front of you. About 1 million pounds a year, right?
About 1 million pounds a year. We'll make most of that in the last quarter of the year. So we're making.
It's a little bit of a seasonal.
It's very seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
It's very seasonal. We sell some during the off season. We'll make a few cakes this week and a few cakes next week, and then we lean into it hard in October, November, and December, and we'll be making up to 20,000 cakes a day, hand decorated.
And I had the chance to be there in the bakery, shot some video, and on my Traveling Texas segment, it will air on December 20th, Tuesday evening. We'll show behind the scenes of making some of these great treats. In fact, I think we've got some of the pecan brittle. Saw that being poured out on a marble slab, and just the way you've done it
on a marble slab.
And the copper kettle is really an antique itself. Yeah. Thomas McNutt was telling me I interviewed him because you weren't feeling well. Right, you were going to be doing the interview with me. Well, when we first we're chatting about setting up this story, and of course my Traveling Texas segments for KXXV 25 News they're just fun. You know, they're fun pieces. But as a news reporter, I certainly well remember back in 2013 a major story involving the Collin Street Bakery, and that was the embezzlement of what we later learned to be close to $17 million.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And when we were setting this story up, I thought, I don't know what you'd be willing to talk about, that kind of thing, because it's been 10 years now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And look, we learn from our mistakes, but we don't hide anything about it. We have a family-run business,
yes,
as you know. You were there and you saw it and you feel it. And he was, this embezzler, Sandy, was part of our family, and we trusted him wholeheartedly.
He had worked 5 years for you and not done a thing. You had no suspicion.
And further than that, we had been around for 100 years, and our previous finance guys, we'd had two of them, had worked for us for 50 years plus, and they were just exemplary, stellar employees and people. And so we brought this guy in and gave him the same amount of trust and leeway, and he just took advantage of it. And we're a small company, we're a family-owned company, so we don't have a lot of the sophistication in terms of financial guards that the bigger corporations do. But we've just been built on trust. And so this guy was able to take advantage of it. We have enough complexity in the business in that we have a big business in Costa Rica where we grow on pineapple. We have a big pecan shelling plant, the world's largest, in Corsicana that we own a third of. Mm-hmm. We have a data company in Dallas. We have small little mail order companies that are part and parcel of the Collin Street Bakery. All these are flowing into and out of the finances. So it was kind of hard to spot. And this guy was able to make those smart moves and keep them under the radar.
Well, looking back at Sandy Jenkins, you've described him as a Walter Mitty type. Very unassuming, very quiet, under the radar kind of a guy. But I've been in your office suite, and it's very open. The vibe is very warm and friendly and inviting, and all of your corporate office, it looks like your presidents and partners kind of open to the main. I mean, everything is very open. It's kind of like a newsroom. It reminded me of that openness, and how he could, over the course of 10 years, be stealing $2 million a year from you, and how he could even sleep at night. I mean, I don't understand the. Have you had a chance to really look back and do some armchair psychology, with this guy?
A little bit. And one of the things that I remember now, looking back, is that he was always had some type of an ailment.
Oh, really?
Yes, his neck was always bothering him. His shoulders were bad. He'd go in and have these different operations. And I look back now and I realize, or I think, that's probably carrying all of that guilt physically, and it was just making him physically ill. And he was struggling with that. Yeah. He had to know that eventually he was going to get caught, and that had to be just a weight on his mind. But once he had taken that step, he couldn't undo it, and so he just kept going.
I have done a lot of stories over the years about embezzling situations, and a lot of them I can think of are little churches, where the church secretary, and maybe she had a bill came due, and she thought, they're not going to, I'll take it out of petty cash, they'll never notice it, and I'll pay it back.
Right.
There's always I'm going to make good on this. Well, I mean, the numbers, Sandy was skimming massive. It got to where I think I read where Neiman Marcus stopped selling. They ran out of things to sell him. I mean, he had it boggles your mind how much stuff he was able to even buy.
Agreed. And he picked up the name Cupcake, and then, I think he was Fruitcake.
He was Fruitcake. His wife Kay was Cupcake. And I think it's interesting that Kay, she says she didn't know. I mean, how do you not know? On a $50,000 a year salary?
Yeah, $50,000 a year.
Every year she was getting a new Lexus.
Yeah, brand new Lexus. They bought a home in New Mexico, and on the mortgage statement they claimed that he made, I believe, $500,000. Not $50,000. And she signed that document, so she had to have
seen
that.
Yeah. Well, she ended up getting probation.
Yeah.
I guess, is she still alive?
She's still alive.
Yeah, but he has passed away.
He passed away in prison.
In prison.
And he would
have been about ready to get out.
He'd be about ready to get out
right now.
But he committed suicide.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, it is just, it's still very hard, even all these years later, to kind of wrap your head around what he was able to accomplish, I guess, in a way, in buying all these Rolex watches and the private jet trips he took, hundreds of them.
Almost weekly, yeah.
And yet you're working a lot across from him in
we didn't socialize with him, and that was where he was able to go under the radar. My business partner, Bob McNutt, and I knew him as our accountant, and we never saw him socially. A colleague, but we didn't see him socially. So we saw none of that. And for example, when Kay would get her new car every year, well, she would get it exactly the same as it was the year before. So an outsider would never notice she had a new car.
It. Mm-hmm.
She would know she was driving a new car, but no one else would. That was one of the little quirks that they did. And he had all these stories, seamless stories, that he inherited money, as did his wife.
Well, and so how do you check that? I mean, really, it's like you sort of take people at their word. But I think I heard you say you can only be embezzled by somebody you trust. That's
it. That's a statement my dad made, and I was like, well, of course. But then you think about it, you get caught off guard, and then you realize, well, if only someone that you trust implicitly would be able to take that kind of money from you consistently. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about how that all did come to light. Really, the heroine of the show,
yes,
is an accounting person who was brought on, and she just thought there's something crazy about the way these checks are numbered.
Right.
So how did he do it?
Well, so the advantage he had was, unlike these bigger corporations that have one person taking the checks in and another person writing checks and sending them out, keeping that a separate issue, he was able to do both.
Yeah.
So he would see how much money was coming in and know how much money he could cut for himself.
Yeah.
And so that's the way you do it. And one thing.
So that's been fixed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, you learn. But that's what he would do. So he would get into the ledger, and he would write a check to Neiman Marcus for $10,000 for a watch, and he'd write that check, cut it, mail it out to Neiman's, and then in the ledger though he'd show that as a voided check.
Oh, made a mistake.
Made a mistake. And then he'd come down and he'd say, check to Navarre Pecan Company for pecans, $10,000. And so he would take that check and just tear it up. But when they were checking the ledgers each month, the accountants would say, well, everything matches. We showed $10,000 going out. We showed $10,000 to Navarre Pecan. Everything looks good. Next chapter. And that's how he was hiding those embezzlements.
Well, she began to question, and of course, she was hired and answered to Sandy.
Right. Yes.
So she sees something amiss, and she goes to him.
She goes straight to him. Yeah.
So he's beginning to maybe get an idea that.
No, he knew
that things were coming to a head.
As she tells the story, he panicked.
As you could tell right away.
Yeah. So she said, I don't understand what's going on with this check. It doesn't, it's not right. And he says, oh, I know exactly what that is. It's a glitch in the computer. I can fix it. Just leave it here on my desk, and I'll take care of it in the morning. And she said his face blanched.
Yeah.
And so she kept digging because she saw something in his face. And she was able to find more and more checks. One thing she found, that another scheme that he was doing was he would pay his credit card off with checks. So he had a card that the bakery did not have as a corporate card. Mm-hmm. He had as a personal card, and he would pay that off. And so those checks were showing up, and she was like, "What's this? We don't have that Citi card or whatever that credit card was." And so she realized that was an issue too. So she dug up enough of those to show a problem. And instead of presenting to him, because she didn't trust it anymore, she went to his boss. Right. And we called him in the next day and fired him.
Yeah, and that's when the color really drained from his face.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand he's trying to come up with some defense of being bipolar or something.
Yes. He said, if I claimed, if I'm bipolar, does that give me a defense of any kind? And our two executives were like, you need to take that up with the police. Or your
knock yourself out.
But yeah.
Oh gosh, unbelievable. But so he realizes he gets fired. I understand he and his wife. He comes home and he says the money has dried up.
Yeah.
And so he gets bags full of Rolex watches and valuable items.
Can you believe it? Yeah.
And they head to their other house in Santa Fe, right?
I think, or they headed to their daughter's place in Austin. I'm not sure which, but that is how the watches ended up in the lake in Lake Austin.
Lake Austin, he rows out in the middle and dumps them, but they weren't ruined. I mean, they were actually fished out, right?
Yeah, they were fished out, and I'm assuming they're all fine. I mean, we were able to recover a lot of that and have it sold and get some of our money back.
Yeah, about what, $4 million maybe?
About $4 million total out of the $17 million that was taken. Yeah. So,
unbelievable.
It's just unbelievable.
Well, you mentioned, and I think it's interesting that the gentlemen who who were running it have been so proactive and thoughtful and intentional and in the business and like having in Costa Rica a resource for all the fruits, the pineapple and the papayas and all that go into a fruitcake, and pecans. I mean, you can see on the box, covered with these beautiful, luscious pecans, to have your own pecan company. So they've been very, intentional about having good business practice. So when you're seeing, we just should be making more money at the end of the year. What were those meetings like, where you're trying to figure out what, where the leak is?
Right. So again, we have a complex business with a lot of inflow and outflow of money. So when we started the year, each year we typically anticipate making about $1 million to $2 million. Good year, up to $2 million. And so we would start the year, well, looks like we're going to make about $1 million at least. And we'd finish the year, wait, we broke even. What happened? And so one year we thought, well, let's look into our margins, because we have 200 plus products. Maybe our margins have slipped, and maybe we're losing money when we think we're making money, and that's where our problems are from. And so we checked our margins, and that took about a year, and everything seemed fine there. And so then we thought, well, maybe it's our inventory. We buy a whole lot of inventory, and if some of it goes bad because it's all fourth quarter stuff and you get too much flour, you get too many pecans and they age on you, then maybe that's where we're losing this money. And so we checked that, and that was not the case. And is someone stealing inventory through the
out of the warehouse?
So we locked up the warehouse and fenced it off. And anyway, we were chasing this. We didn't know what it was. We were chasing it the whole time, and Sandy was sitting in on these meetings.
So he could always be one step ahead.
One step ahead, and just say, oh, they're looking into this now. And so, yeah.
Well, it makes for a fascinating story. And I understand there was a screenplay, a feature movie, that was being talked about with Will Ferrell, I think, and Laura Dern starring as the Jenkins. COVID happened, and that sort of went by the wayside. But now I understand that it might still be being shopped around.
We're hearing the same thing. So, in fact, we heard it was Zach Galifianakis and Mary McCarthy had signed up to be. Yeah, and they would be perfect.
It would be perfect.
But I think they've moved on as well. But I think it's still out there. In fact, I checked with the production guy, who's part of the team that found the script and is circulating through Hollywood, and he said it's still alive, and they're still trying to bring it to the finish line.
There's a lot of fascination about it, and there has been a documentary. I tried to find the documentary on Discovery Plus, but it's not available yet. But as soon as it comes back,
yes,
I want to watch it. It's called Fruitcake Fraud.
Is on Discovery Plus, and it should come out any day now. They had it released for quite a while, and then they let it go dormant, and then they're bringing it back. That's one.
I figured they would around the holidays. It makes sense.
Yeah, and every year after. So that'll be that will be helpful to the bakery, because.
So you're good with these kinds of media.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened. God bless him, but you can't stop that kind of thing. You just go on, and we persevere. And,
well, I mean, honestly, the miracle is the business was able to withstand it.
Yeah, so true.
Because so many, we saw COVID, so many businesses went under because of that, relatively brief. And this was a 10-year embezzlement you guys were dealing with at Collin Street Bakery.
Hey y'all, I'm April.
Hi, I'm Caroline.
And we have a new podcast for you. What's it called, Caroline?
Bloody Happy Hour.
It's going to be your new favorite guilty pleasure. We're going to talk about some bloody stuff. Serial killers. True crime. Rapists. Why not join us? We'll have a good time.
You literally never know. I don't know what I'm going to say. Bloody Happy Hour. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, this is Sarah.
And I'm Carter.
And this is Some of Our Thoughts.
We're two Southern sommeliers, and we want to share everything we love and know about wine. We started hanging out during quarantine and cooking and drinking and listening to music, and we just thought this would be a great way to bring everything we know to you guys.
We will make wine knowledge and food pairings easy and approachable. So put on your favorite vinyl, grab your favorite glass of wine, tune into our show, and let's have some fun.
Wine and vinyl. So check us out on roguemedianetwork.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. We'll be talking about a lot.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.
Well, we want to talk a little bit about the history of this great company because it's fascinating to me. How you originally were in a smaller building.
Yep.
There was also a hotel
Right.
on Collin Street in downtown, the old antique part, historic
Yes.
Corsicana.
Actually, even before that, we were at a smaller place still. It was just a little corner bakery type thing.
Uh-huh.
And after about 10 years, it was so successful that that's when they built the hotel on top of the larger facility.
Oh, okay.
All right. And then from there, we moved in the 60s, we moved to the current location, which is about 150,000 square feet of production space and storage space.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me was how your mail order business really happened because of John Ringling of the Ringling Brothers Circus.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So back then, Corsicana was a boom town, an oil boom town. And lots of folks were coming through, entertainers coming through and entertaining all these oil rig workers and stuff. And so John Ringling and his troupe had come through, and they were staying in our hotel. And they'd pick up fruitcakes, and they would take them with them when they went overseas, touring and traveling with their family and whatever. And they were handing out these fruitcakes to family and friends over there. Those folks were writing us saying, can you mail us another one of your fruitcakes? And that's how we attribute the business going through the mail order and becoming so successful.
Yeah, well, it was. It's a food that has its roots really in the old country in Germany.
Right.
Let's see, his name was Gus Weidmann.
Gus Weidmann.
Weidmann
You may
from
be saying it right.
Wiesbaden,
Yeah.
Germany, and of course I'm German. Maybe that's why I love fruitcakes so much. My German roots are coming through. But yeah, the German influence in Texas is very strong, and this is a favorite food from Germany. And what made it perfect for the mail order business is the fact that it doesn't have to be refrigerated. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's dried fruits and
It was homemakers invented it as this is before refrigeration, so they could just put it in a root cellar and then bring it out as a celebratory
or maybe soak
cake.
it down with a good alcohol and
and let it sit for.
Do
a
you do
couple
that
of
to
months.
any?
I don't like alcohol in my
Fruitcake.
food.
Yeah.
I just don't. It gives it a little bit of a whack, so
Yeah.
I don't do it. Bob, my business partner's dad, who ran the bakery for years, used to say that for us to add liquor to fruitcake would be a ruination of both the fruitcake and their good liquor.
and the liquor.
Yeah. So we never did it.
Okay.
But you could choose to do it if you
It
want
is a
to.
thing, yeah.
Yes, it's a thing. You can do it.
But it's nutritionally dense. I mean, it's pretty packed with calories. I mean, a little piece will do you.
Well, about a half ounce is about 100 calories. But now what we're doing now is we're trying to capitalize on that because it's 30% pecans or almost 30% pecans, and all this fruit. We're trying to make a protein bar.
Oh, good.
Oh, we're actually not trying. We're making one. We just haven't come out with it yet, and we're capitalizing on that dense calorie quality of fruitcake because it's just a natural. It's just like all those different power bars that they're out there in the market now.
Yeah, your diversification is really remarkable in that, of course, if you've been to the bakery, the one in Waco, you have these roadside bakeries.
Yes.
3 or 4 of them, right?
There's 4 of them. Mm-hmm.
And the cookies, and it's more than just fruitcake.
Yeah.
But you also have now these refrigerator cookies where you can break apart and bake yourself. That's my kind of baking.
Oh, there you go. That's brand new for us.
Yeah, well, we saw those being made, those being my TV story as well. Of course, the pecan brittle, talked about that. But rolls, yeast rolls, breads. Another thing I want to talk about is the connection with a White House baker. I just think this is a fabulous story.
Isn't that wild? So the longest-serving White House chef is a gentleman named Roland Mesnier, who has since passed away. But we had several friends within the White House that knew him, and when we found out that he was going to retire, we contacted him and said, would you be willing to work with the bakery? And he was. And he came down, and each year he would work in our kitchens and come up with different ideas, different recipes, and a lot of them are still on our shelves now.
Well, yeah, I think a pumpkin cake that was Bill Clinton's favorite.
Yeah, it's called the presidential pumpkin cake. You can buy it online or you can buy it in our stores.
Yeah.
Pumpkin bread. He has different recipes for our case cakes that are just fantastic. He invented a recipe for chocolate. We have a very high-end
right here.
style chocolate.
Yeah, I got video of the little fruitcake bites being covered in a curtain of chocolate.
Yes.
But it's the only place you can taste that chocolate because it's a special
exactly. Yeah, you can only
formulation.
Get it from us, and he's the one who came up with that recipe. Yeah, so we were blessed. Knew him for years. He just passed away this past year.
Really?
Yeah, but he was a wonderful man. A French baker through and through.
Just a remarkable story. So many ways Collin Street Bakery has been blessed, really.
Yeah.
Through the years.
True.
And protected
Yeah.
in a very special way. Well, I like to end these broadcasts with a little questionnaire. It's similar to the one that the late, great James Lipton would use on Inside the Actors Studios. So Here we go.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
Wow.
Don't you say fruitcake.
What is my favorite? May I say delicious?
There you go. It works for me.
There.
What about your least favorite word?
Oh, squat.
Okay, that's a first for me.
Yeah. I've always felt squat's a little bit rough word.
Okay, all right. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Creativity itself. I thrill at the creative aspects of my job, and I get to do that a lot, and I love it. I'm through and through. Well, I'm left-handed, and I blame that on my creativity, or vice versa. But no, I love being creative. It's what gives me the juice.
Yeah, and you kind of grew up there at Collin Street Bakery.
I did.
I mean, your dad was.
Dad
and you got to work with
him.
him.
6 years. Yeah, when I was about 6 years old, he joined the bakery, and I worked with him hand in hand for over a decade.
Yeah.
He retired there, but stayed, kept his office, and he was there till the very end. He stopped coming to work a couple of months, and eventually succumbed to cancer.
What turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
That's a tough one. What turns me off? I guess when people ram an idea down your throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've kind of heard similar sentiments to that from other people. What sound do you love the most?
Music.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Yeah.
What sound do you hate?
Oh, gosh. Sirens.
Yeah.
Yeah, horns blasting.
What other profession would you have liked to try?
Well, I have to tell you, when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be an archaeologist. So I've always talked about that. And then I decided I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I had that idea for a while, even in college. And I just never pursued it. I ended up getting in the business that my dad was in, and it's been a perfect fit. Anyway.
Yeah. What job do you know you would not want to do?
Working outdoors in the summer.
Yeah. In Texas, especially.
Yeah. Holy mackerel.
Makes you appreciate
Yeah.
those folks that do. Well, finally, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome, Hayden. We were waiting for you.
Well, you have just been a delight, and I so appreciate you telling the story, because when I've talked to people, like, I'm going to Collin Street Bakery and do a Traveling Texas on that, they want to know, still in business. Oh, yeah, it's very much still in business, because I think it was such a big story and it was such a massive amount of loss. Yeah. It's really remarkable. The business is doing just great.
It is. Thanks to the loyal customers that we have. They are fantastic.
Yeah. Well, my mother would always go and buy fruitcake. That was what she would get Collin Street Bakery fruitcakes to give. We always knew we were going to have a fruitcake. So I guess I'm keeping that same tradition alive.
Please do.
For sure. Well, Hayden, thank you so much. It's been a delight.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it.
And thank you for being with us. We'll see you again on Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.